Hey everybody, welcome back. Tuso Acres here. So I got Reba back in the barn, and unfortunately that lifter tick that I had gotten really worried about in the very beginning, I found a really bent push rod. So I put a new rocker arm in it, a new push rod, and it went away. And then all of a sudden, I don't know, maybe 2-3 hours of engine runtime later, it started coming back a little bit more. I drove it a few times. I hauled a couple trailer loads of hay home, and it's getting worse. I know it's getting worse, so pulled her back in, popped the valve cover off, and sure as shit, that rocker arm is really loose. The push rod isn't bent, but the rocker arm it's probably got a solid 1 to 2 millimeter play in there. I'm actually kind of surprised the push rod isn't bent already. So, all right, so the next steps, I've already drained the oil and checked it. It doesn't look bad. Really no metal particles. I drained every last little bit. I let it drain for probably 15 minutes. And then I not really screened it, but I put it through with the magnet, and I wasn't able to find any real metal. I did turn the engine over and check the push rod up and down. I know that's not really an official way, but it definitely seems like it's not moving as far as the next exhaust valve down, if that makes sense. So we're working on the #1 exhaust valve rocker arm, and it's only moving, maybe 3/8 of an inch, whereas the next exhaust valve down, that rocker arm and push rod assembly are moving closer to a 1/2 inch. Again, ballpark, I didn't get out the micrometer or nothing. So that's 2 times this has happened now. So the next step for me is to yank the intake so that I can get the lifter out of there so that I can actually see the camshaft. Now, I don't know, maybe the lifter's bad. I'm really hoping it's just the lifter. You'd think if the lobe on the camshaft was wiped out that I would have had a lot more metal in the oil. This is twice now that I've drained it after having this issue. The first time I even cut the oil filter wide open. I laid out all the pleating, and I didn't see anything really crazy. So if I had lost, a 1/4 inch of metal off that camshaft lobe, you'd think it would look a lot worse than that. I don't know. It wasn't ticking like this when I drove it home from the auction. Then all of a sudden, after the water pump, it started ticking, and that's when I found the push rod. So new push rod, new rocker arm, and it was quiet again. Then it went right back to ticking. So we're just gonna have to figure this out. I'm really hoping that, metal shavings didn't destroy the rest of the bearings in the engine. I talked to a couple folks around here. One of them is an actual engine builder by trade, and he was kind of like, I don't know. I talked to an auto parts store, and he showed me this camshaft that an entire lobe was just gone. I talked to another buddy who says, just run it. And I don't know. I'm just going to dig into it. I don't like the ticking noise. If it was just a lifter tick, that'd be one thing. I've had that on Fords my whole life. But this isn't just a lifter tick. This is a loose rocker arm and push rod assembly. So that worries me, So I'm going to dig into this, and I'll show you what I find. All right, so an hour later, got the intake off, just took a peek in there, and yeah, I got a wiped cam lobe. I don't know how, just this one. I'll show you real quick. All right, so, honestly, Valley looks pretty clean. There's nothing too crazy going on that I can see, but that right there just happens to be a hole. Let's see if I can't get a good close-up. You can see the edge. You can see the edge of that cam. If we look at one of these back here, you can see that lobe is nice and perfect. That's how it's supposed to look. It's a little worn, I think. Sorry, camera's not focusing very good. But anyway, this one, you can clearly see the ridge on the left side there. And that is 100% bad cam lobe. And I can even see on the far right-hand side down there where the actual lobe sticks up, or tries to stick up, and it's basically gone. So I don't know what really caused that or could cause that. No idea. Anyway, I'm gonna look into it a little bit more, and hopefully all I gotta do is yank the radiator in the front grill area, and then I can get the whole front half of the engine, the timing chain cover and all, the water pump, everything down to where the cam access is, and I might just be able to slide the cam out, get another cam installed. Obviously I'll have to break loose all the rocker arms and push rods and get all the lifters out of the way, replace this one lifter. And you can definitely see on this one lifter, it is cupped really bad. See how much of an indent there is? That's definitely one way you can tell. And then you can also see on the edges, right here, there's a real sharp edge. You can see where it's been chewing up for a while. Man, that sucks. But I never did mention what I paid for this truck. And I suppose now I don't feel so great about my awesome deal. I think it's still a great deal. I paid $4,900. You know, with tax, tag, and title, everything said it's closer to 55 to 6K. But just for a truck like this, I mean, 15 to 20K is pretty standard. 25 even. So to get it for 5, I really wish this engine problem. I mean, if I wasn't able to work on my own engine, you're looking at couple grand just to do a camshaft. You know, if you rebuild the whole thing, you're looking at, if you take it somewhere, probably closer to 5K. Every engine that I've rebuilt on my own, even with me doing all of the labor except for the machine work, you know, taking the heads in and getting them cleaned and milled, and same thing with the block itself, and if it needs to get honed or whatever, it's always been between 2,500 and 3K. If you take it somewhere and have that done, you're looking at 5K easy. So if somebody bought this truck for 5 grand and they had to do this, they're looking at 10K easy just to make it usable. So I still got a good deal. It's just frustrating that I'm stuck in this predicament because I was really, really, really hoping to be able to be driving this truck consistently already. And I'm holding off on selling my other Bronco until I can use this and rely on it. So where do we stand? We'll be back when I come up with a solution. All right, so yesterday turned out to be pretty good. Went out hunting after shutting down the shop here. Got myself a little doe. Well, actually a big doe. I let the little doe go. Anyway, while I was out there waiting around, I was thumbing through YouTube and the forums, 460 and Ford truck forums and all that stuff, looking for, you know, can I pull the camshaft, or how do you pull the camshaft in chassis? There's really not a lot out there. I saw a couple videos where you see bits and pieces of it, but not the actual process. So I'm going to take you through it real quick. I'll talk right now just about what I've done thus far, and then the rest of it I'll just go ahead and put on fast forward. You can watch. If you got any questions, you know, toss it down in the comment section. Kind of figuring this out as I go. Obviously, the mechanic guys out there, you know, this isn't too terribly tough. I like to just read up on things before I dive into them, if I can. You know, a lot of times I just jump right in. But if I can and have the time and opportunity to read up on it and study it and, you know, learn what to expect, I try to do that. In this case, there's not a whole lot out there, it seems like. So, you know, 302s and 351s and small block Chevys, all that, there's tons and tons of that stuff. Not a whole lot on these 460s as far as internals. Anywho, with that said, let me show you real quick. I'll back the camera up. All right, so externally, all I've done so far is got the grill out of the way and this plastic valance up here. I'm a bag and tag kind of guy. The way I see it, you're removing nuts and bolts and washers and stuff's flying everywhere. And sure, you can take the time to figure out how it all goes back together, but just some super, super cheap zip locks from Wally World or wherever and a zip tie. Now, I don't even have to think about it. I can set these parts down wherever, and I'm not going to lose track of my nuts and bolts. And if you think about it long term, all right, okay, oh yeah, oh no, you spend a whole 30 to 60 seconds to put nuts and bolts in a baggie and zip tie it to your part. If you lose one of those when you're doing reassembly, just one could cost you half hour, or a whole day, even if you got to source a new nut or bolt. So for me, the extra little bit of time on the front end saves me a lot of time on the back end. Even if it's just as much as I don't even have to scramble around. The parts are right here. Open it up, boom, slap it back together, don't even have to think about it. And it saves me time just of the thought process of what ones go with what parts. Even if they're not lost, you know, you still got to sift through them. So I'm assuming that this one is my trans cooler and this one is my oil cooler. The oil cooler looks like it's got flex lines. I can just pull those out of the way. The trans cooler, though, looks like I'm going to have to disconnect those. The condenser coil is going to have to come out. All All right, so in the engine bay, you know, obviously you can see where we're at, but if you have the fuel injected model, you're going to upper and lower intakes and the throttle bodies and all your sensors and wires and cables, all that's going to have to get moved aside. This used to be a fuel injected, and you can see all the stuff's zip tied out of the way already, so I've already got the rest of the cables and vacuum lines and all that crap out of the way. What I'm going to do next in here is vacuum up all the crud, get these intake manifold gaskets out of here, but yeah, get it all cleaned up, plug off my intake ports with some paper towel. Then I'm going to get all my rocker arms, push rods, and lifters pulled out, organized, set aside, labeled the whole 9 yards. Then I'm just going to cover this whole area, the valley, the heads, the whole thing. I don't want any other crap falling in there, especially like a nut or a bolt or a washer that trickles down in there. Then you really do got to pull the engine. Once that part's done, I'm going to go ahead and focus on the front of the engine, get the alternator, the fan shroud, all that stuff out of the way. The AC compressor and the power steering pump, it's all connected to the same bracket, and I've been able to just pull it and set it aside and get access to the front end, so I'm hoping that's what I can do again here. Then get the radiator and the AC evaporator core out of the way, or I'm sorry, condenser core out of the way, and hopefully that camshaft will come out of there. The harmonic balancer, that's the one thing I was specifically looking for on YouTube, and I couldn't find it actually being pulled. A buddy of mine said that he had to use a special tool, and he had it, so I borrowed it. We'll see if we actually need that on this one. I haven't really looked close enough yet. All right, so I'm going to throw some music on for you guys and fast forward. I'll throw some tunes on for myself in the background, and off to the races we go. All right, everybody, so everything went pretty good. It was probably about 4 hours total work, ballpark. I did have this retaining ring for the camshaft, broke one of the tangs, and it was actually broke when I started working on it, so it fell down. I'll have to find that later. And I had one bolt break on the bottom of the timing chain cover that goes through the bottom of the oil pan, but fortunately that's in the timing chain cover and I can take care of that. Now, as far as the actual camshaft, it's just the one lobe. I don't see anything else that looks bad. I haven't seen what the inside looks like. Here's our one bad lifter. All of the other lifters, all 15 of the other ones, look gorgeous. So not really too worried about it. I just have a feeling that the break-in didn't go right, and it was probably doomed from the beginning. So right here you can see I left both of the oil coolers in place, the transmission and the engine oil cooler, and I was able to slip that camshaft right through there. I didn't have to pull that bracket there, the hood bracket. It worked just fine. So as far as getting it all out of there, not a big deal. It's definitely doable. Everything up front here looks pretty good. Even these bearings, those bearings don't look too bad at all right now. Now, I don't know. I'm not a professional engine builder by any means. I've built probably 3 or 4, I think, but this doesn't look bad to me. So I didn't need any special puller for the harmonic balance. I mean, just a standard harmonic balancer puller. Outside of that, everything else came apart pretty easy. All right, well, that's gonna be it for this video. There's not much else I can do at this point. It's a Friday night. I'm gonna be taking some of these parts to my local engine guy. If I do have to pull the engine, I'm only, a transmission, the flex plate to the torque converter and a couple exhaust manifolds away. It really wouldn't be that big of a deal. I'd probably get the hood off and out of the way. Maybe. I don't even know if I'd have to do that. It would make it easier. Anyway, when I get to the point of figuring out how I'm going to proceed from here, I'll just go ahead and make another video. This video is just to show how to yank out a camshaft out of a 460 in an OBS Ford. I didn't see anything like this on YouTube, so hopefully it helps. If you got any questions, go ahead and throw it in the comments section. I'll be happy to help you out any way I can. It wasn't that big of a job, if you got the tools and the general knowledge on how to work this stuff. Honestly, there's not a whole lot you can screw up, but you do need to take precautions. Anyway, appreciate y'all watching. Please hit those like and subscribe buttons. Keep yanking on your bootstraps. We'll catch you on the next video.